So the structure of the today's and tomorrow our class, we will start with the setting the right motivation, and that will follow with the chanting 6-syllable Chenrezig mantra to help us, to bring our attention right here and now. Then I will talk on the subject. Then we'll end the gathering with the recitation of 21 Thara prayers and two dedication verses. One long life prayer for His Holiness, and another dedication prayer to increase bodhicitta. So that will be the structure today and tomorrow our gathering. And before we say the 4 lines of refuge and bodhicitta in Tibetan, I will say a few words why it is important to have the right motivation or intention, not only when we gather this kind of gathering, or when we do our daily prayers or practices, but in every day, starting with the right they start with the right motivation, and then try to carry that right motivation or intention during the day and in the evening, and even just going, evening before going to bed, which will be very, very helpful. As a human beings, we all have the ability to hold positive and constructive mental states. There's no doubt whether we are Buddhist or not, whether we are very extensively trained in a particular Buddhist traditions or particular religious traditions or not. As a human beings, we all have the ability to hold many layers of positive minds. It is only the matter of whether we do it or not. That is something I found very, very helpful and useful to remind ourselves, whether we have a long time study, to follow Buddha's teachings or not. We all have the ability to hold positive minds. And then, the holding, starting the day with a positive mind, differs to individual. For us, I think many of us follow the teachings of the Buddha. In that case, starting the day with the mind, taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and among us, within the teachings of the Buddha, some of us follow, Bodhisattvayana teachings, or Mahayana teachings, and the Vajrayana teachings. In that case, holding bodhicitta, the altruistic awakened mind, if we are able to hold, very, what you call the full and the very complete bodhicitta, that is great. If not, try to bring that mind as strong as possible. So in the morning, I usually suggest, even before we start, if people who have morning prayers or practices, even before that, just soon as woke up, just for a few minutes to bring these kind of positive minds, refuge, and bodhicitta. Even if it is very short morning, just 5 minutes, that will be fine. Then we can do more extensive one later when we start doing daily practice. So that is something I always suggest when I lead these kind of gathering. Of course, people who are not Buddhist, then I'm not suggesting to do that. But people who are not Buddhist, but still, you can hold many, layers of positive mind, positive intention, how you're going to spend the day. And so how to hold the refuge and the bodhicitta minds, and it is, not just the recitation, either in English or in Tibetan or in Sanskrit or in Pali or in other languages. What is helpful and useful is really, try to recall or try to remember the qualities of the Buddha or Buddhas and Dharma and the Sangha. And that is one of the key factors, to have a strong, clear mind taking refuge in three jewels. More we understand, more we feel the qualities of the three jewels, the stronger the mind will be to take refuge. And that is, over the weeks, months, years, that we can, build the understanding of the qualities of the three jewels. There are many texts, there are many commentaries explain the qualities of the Buddha, qualities of the Dharma, and the qualities of the Sangha. And there's a very nice sutra called Punjo Chirengi Do, recollecting the three jewels. There's a nice sutra, not very long, maybe 3 or 4 A4 size, which explains, very nicely the qualities of the three jewels. And, not very detailed philosophically, something that we ordinary people can understand. So like that, or in the Lamrims, Tsongkhapa's Lamrims, there are explanations of the qualities of the three jewels, which will be very, very helpful. Gradually, week by week, month by month, added on our understanding and our heart feeling of the qualities of the three jewels. Then as soon as when we say the Buddha or Buddhas, we will have, a deep deep feeling from our heart. Not just the image of Buddha. Sometimes when we say, I take refuge to the Buddha, we'll have an image of Buddha. Not many of us, unable to have the feeling of qualities of the Buddha, just image of Buddha. Though it is great, just having image of the Buddha, but that just image will not help us in a very depth or long term. So that is something I would say from here. And then also along the taking refuge in Three Jewels, what is important is understanding of the nature of our current existence. Our current existence is, compared to many other species on this planet, in many ways, particularly at the mental level, intellectual level, humans are very capable and very able living beings. And also within the humanity, within the 7 billion human beings, somehow, whatever the reasons, currently, although there are lots of turbulence in the world, wars and famines and many other things, for some reasons, we are quite lucky to have these kind of opportunities, and so on and so forth. Yet we are not free from, the root of the difficulties. Individually and also collectively. Individually, for example, myself, those sources that the Buddha and the subsequent Buddhist teachers have identified as causes that causes to bring unhappiness, dissatisfaction. No matter whatever I've got, there's a nagging feeling of something is not complete, something is not right. So those roots are still there within myself and the community where I live. Although I cannot judge others, but from the Buddhist teachings point of view. So understanding this, our current nature of our current existence, though we are lucky, fortunate, things are okay, physically, mentally, environmentally, but we are not free from attachment, aversion, and ignorance, which are the roots of our difficulties, challenges that we face individually and collectively. And that understanding is a very important part of the taking refuge in Three Jewels. So those are the two key factors. Over the weeks, months, years, try to make very clear and very detailed. That is the situation. Qualities, understanding of the qualities of the Three Jewels, and then understanding of the nature of our current existence, which is unenlightened, which is not free from the root of the difficulties. So when we when we say the refuge lines in the group or individually, I usually suggest, spend maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes on these 2 points. Of course, if you have more time, more detail. Otherwise, just contemplate, meditate, reflect on these 2 points, then say the refuge lines. 1, 2, 3 times, as much as we like. And that's the one thing. The another thing is when we say the line, the bodhicitta, which help us to hold this altruistic awakened mind. And here again, we should. It is helpful to, over the coming weeks, months, years, decades, really to build these 2 aspirations, which is the bodhicitta is the aspiration or yearning to support other living beings without any discrimination, without any particular selections, without any self-interest, really sort of to build this yearning, longing to support others. What level? Just giving a cup of tea, glass of water, or further to support others to be free from suffering and the origins of suffering. But that aspiration, a yearning, should be built weeks, months, years, and decades, which is the key ingredient to have bodhicitta. The second aspiration is like aspiration to experience the fully awakened mind. That is more like a corporate. The main aspiration to have bodhicitta is the first one. Aspiration to serve all living beings. And in that, as we know, there are several different, very nicely, very systematically structured methods or techniques taught by many great Indian masters, and then in Tibetan Buddhist tradition, those Tibetan teachers up to current teachers such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that is really something useful to build. And then when we, in the morning or during the day, as soon as we say that any kind of refuge or recitation related to refuge and bodhicitta, then there will be a heart, sort of feeling, not just verbal, not just physical, like a gesture, but heart feeling from our heart. So that's my brief, suggestion relation to the setting the right motivation. And so I will say the refuge and bodhicitta lines 3 times. Then after that, today and tomorrow, I will say a few times the 6-syllable mantra, as I said just earlier, because during the day, we are very busy. Our minds are very busy. Physically, we are running, many different directions, and verbally keep chatting. So we are very busy. And if we observe closely the busyness of our body, speech, and mind. Most of these activities are, I would say, neutral, not necessarily positive, and not necessarily negative, just neutral. Occasionally may positive, and occasionally some are not very constructive, but most of those our daily activities are routine, just carry on. But even in that level, it is very, very helpful to have a calm, rested mental state. When I say rested, I'm not saying, just completely there's no energy, but clarity and the stability, not easily to be disturbed, not easily to be distracted. Something, easy to focus, calm, which is very, very helpful, even when we do our daily activities. So in that case, it is helpful to spend 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes every day. Or when I say every day, I mean, I'm not saying very strictly, but, routinely. That kind of some way to find a place, a quiet place, not necessarily to have a temple or, if you have, that's fine. Otherwise, wherever you find a little bit, calm and to build that kind of stability and the clarity in our mental state is also very, very helpful. So to represent that, when I lead classes, I always chant a little bit, particularly in this kind of version of class online. Sometimes it's difficult to stay everyone silent. So instead of that, I'd say a few mantras, different mantras. Today I will chant a Cheresic mantra, and people who like to just stay, silent and build stability and the clarity on the sound of the mantra. Or sometimes I suggest, particularly these days, what the world needs is love, compassion, altruism, empathy, because lots of, difficulties going on. So sometimes I suggest when I recite the mantra to hold a strong love, compassion towards all living beings, and starting up on oneself, one's own loved ones, and then gradually to extend towards all sentient beings. Though it is just mentally we are doing it, but it is part of the training our mind, reaching out all sentient beings. Physically, it is impossible, but mentally it is possible. So through holding strong love and compassion, and then really genuinely, sincerely expressing that towards all sentient beings is something quite I found very, very helpful. At least there's something mentally I can, reach out towards all sentient beings with the sincere love and compassion. So that's what I do. And then after that, I will start the class. So first, I will say the refuge and the bodhicitta lines 3 times. During that time, we'll all hold people who have taken refuge, and also hold the bodhicitta. Sangye Chedan Tsoye Chonam Chanjo Pato Tani Pato Chon Dage Chenso Kebe Sonam Rola Penje Sangye Yoba Sangye Chedan Tsoye Chonam Chanjo Pado Dane Yaso Chen Dage Jinso Jibe Tonama Ye Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sanje Chedan Soji Chonam Chanjo Pado Dane Yaso Chen Dage Jinso Jibe Tonama Ye Tola Penje Sanje Doba Ne So these two are the something that I suggest to have in our everyday lives. Right, positive motivation, the morning, during the day, in the evening, how we are going to spend our day, and also a certain degrees of calmness, stillness in our mental state. And whether we are Buddhist or not, it doesn't matter what kind of spiritual path that we follow. Having a positive intention, minimum, deliberately, intentionally, and not going to harm other living beings. And during the day, try to remind that to ourselves, physically, mentally, and verbally. And if it is possible, to support, to help others, try to include other living beings, whoever they are, in our heart, and which is very, very helpful. So then our today and tomorrow, our gathering, the text that we are going to read, as I mentioned earlier, is the teachings that the Buddha, historical Buddha, had given after his enlightenment. And this sutra, sometimes easily people call the Four Noble Truths Sutra, from the subject, according to the subject, that is the Four Noble Truths. So sometimes people call Four Noble Truth Sutras, or Turning the Wheel of the Dharma. There's another titles that people call this sutra. I think it might be helpful first me to explain the structure of the sutra itself, because it is not that long, easy to to look at, and then I will I will go a little bit depth, on the sutra. It is difficult to go all the details, but I can try to explain some of the important parts of the sutra. And my explanation will be mainly from the practical point of view, not that much philosophical. Occasionally, I may explain philosophical point of view, but mainly from the practical point of view. I found it that to lead class in that way. We have only two sessions, and therefore, my explanation will be more practical point of view. And another point which I usually say, and I thought I should say it, my role here is your Dharma friends, not as a teacher. Not as a teacher, not as your teacher. I'm here as your Dharma friends, and just to share, my little understanding of these teachings, to share with you. That is my role, and which is, I found staying at that level is more comfortable than to say I'm your teacher, you are my student. I don't feel that that role is but it is very, very helpful. We will also see here in the sutra, but I will say here before I read the sutra. The person who is leading the class, he or she should have minimum, genuinely cares others, that he or she is explaining or giving the teachings or leading the class. And the people who are participating in the class, as Tsongkhapa clearly listed based on one of the Indian great masters' texts, these three qualities, subne, losubune, that means have a very unbiased attitude, mental states. Unbiased in the sense, oh, this is my teacher and I like his or her teachings. Or this is my philosophy. This is the topic that I like. Not in that way. Very unbiased. Submit. Then have the ability to understand what is said, what is taught, what is explained, not just accept it, whatever is said, but have the ability to analyze, to investigate. Then third one is have the yearning to learn, yearning to learn, yeah. to practice. Those are the three qualities that as a participant that we should have. If we have these three qualities, these all are mental qualities: unbiased attitude, have the ability to understand, and also have yearning to learn, yearning to practice the Dharma, then that will help ourselves as a participants. So those are something which helpful when we come together like this kind of gathering. Now, sutra, this sutra, in terms of the subject matter, as I explained, the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is noble truth of dukkha, suffering. I will use this English word. There are arguments whether the English word suffering really captures the Sanskrit term dukkha or not. I will not argue that much, but noble truth of suffering, dukkha. The second is noble truth of origins of dukkha, where the suffering is coming from, where suffering is originated. That's the second noble truth. And third noble truth is noble truth of cessation or extinction, cessation of what? Cessation of suffering and the origins of suffering. That is the third noble truth. And the fourth noble truth is noble truth of the path or the way. There are different ways to translate path. Path that leads to the cessation, which is the third noble truth. The cessation of origin and dukkha. So that is the fourth noble truth. So these are the subjects. And the first two noble truth of dukkha and the origins of dukkha, if I use this expression, whether we like it or not, these two are very much our current nature of existence, nature of our current existence, dukkha and the origins of dukkha. I'm not saying 24 hours, 7 days a week, we are all the time experiencing sufferings and so on and so forth. But our current nature of existence, nature of our current existence is in these two, the first two noble truths. And that's what we need to reflect on, whether that's right or not, whether that's true or not. Here, right here and now, within our existence, morning until going to bed, or even during the sleep. We say quite often, I had a very bad dream, I had a nightmare. These are the signs. So that is. And the third and the fourth noble truth is something that we should try to build on, cultivate, develop. We have the full potential. We have the full, what you call the complete fresh seed within our mental continuum to build on the cessation of suffering and the origins of suffering and the path that leads to that cessation. As I mentioned earlier, on this planet, there are billions of species. But as far as we know, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says very often, in terms of the richness of our mental state, our emotions, thoughts, currently humans are most, what you call have the most capability and rich emotions. And as traditionally pointed out, there were the 8 leisures, 10 endowments, like that. Whether we go like the traditionally listed, those 18 qualities as a precious human life that we have or not, but if we contemplate how much facilities, how much facilities that we have externally to understand our current nature of our current existence, dukkha and the origins of dukkha, and to build the cessation and the path which leads to cessation coming weeks, months, years. We are very, very fortunate in that context. We have the ability. So, Four Noble Truths. That is the subject, and that is something we should really try to, when I say practice, I don't mean what you call the recitation or close eyes, visualizations. I don't mean that. When I say practice, in the sense, really try to bring in our mind, in our mental continuum, how fortunate that we are in terms of the facilities, conditions, to build cessation within our mental continuum, cessation of dukkha and the origins of dukkha, individually and collectively. How fortunate that we are to build or to cultivate the path that leads to that cessation. In here, Buddha taught Noble Eightfold Path. There are different ways to explain the path to lead to cessation. Here, Noble Eightfold Path. So that is something that in terms of the subject, that we should try to practice that in our daily life. And okay, now the text itself, the first paragraph, is very much setting the background, which is almost all the sutras, particularly particularly these kind of sutras which are common to Theravadan and Mahayana, and also Mahayana sutras like Panchaparamita sutras always start with this similar background. Who taught, what taught, who were there, and at what place. And this is what here the first paragraph or the first paragraph here, because all these sutras, written sutras, it seems came in a written form much later after the historical Buddha passed away. Through the recollection remembering memory from those great Buddhist teachers who were with the Buddha, and they come together, they recite together. So that there are almost all the sutras start with this, this statement saying, on one occasion, the blessed one was dwelling. So that I heard, like that. So that is the first paragraph. And in this case, the place is Varanasi, and a particular place where this sutra was taught by the Buddha is this particular place is called Deer Park at the in Tibetan it's called Tang Song Hongwa Ridakina. So Deer Park at the Asipatana, that is the particular, and then who were there, and there were 5, his first disciple. And that is almost standard background, almost all the sutras. People who know Heart Sutra have a very similar the sutra start with that, saying the Buddha taught at the Rajgir general place in a particular virtuous peak, and in terms of the listener, bodhisattvas and Mahasanghas. That is how, and then in the next paragraph is a relatively big paragraph, but here one important, which I want to point it out, is the early part of this paragraph. Buddha clearly, explain what kind, I will use this term, what kind of lifestyles that we should have in terms of to benefit or to practice the teachings that he is going to give. What kind of lifestyles? And here he suggested 2 extreme lifestyles should be avoided in order to benefit the teachings that he is going to give. And that's what Sutra addressed like this. Bhikshus are those 5 monks. These 2 extremes should not be followed by one who has gone forth into homelessness. This word homelessness, gone into homelessness, that is, again, we need to explain more detail. I will come a little bit later on that. But here, I want to express a little bit on this. 2 extremes should be avoided, not be followed. 2 extremes of lifestyles. And here, the 2 extremes are, Buddha identified lifestyle, extreme lifestyles of indulging sense pleasures. If we dedicate all our time, energy, and resources and lifespans just to have sense pleasure, that is one extreme. Buddha suggested should be avoided. So his followers, Buddha didn't say not enjoy sense pleasures. But what Buddha said is avoid or not to follow extreme. And that word extreme is very important. Extreme in the sense, our time, energy, resources, whatever we have, just to, spend on to have sense pleasure. That is extreme, and Buddha said that kind of lifestyle should be avoided. Avoided in the sense, if we have that kind of lifestyle, the teachings or the teachings that he is going to give will not benefit. There's no, in other words, there's no room, there's no space to really, what you call to capture or to understand the teaching, because lifestyle is that kind of extreme. So when we say sense pleasure, it is shapes and colors in terms of the form, sound, smell, taste, and tactile. Those are the 5 sense objects. Our 5 sense consciousnesses are very much designed to encounter these 5 sense objects. And we are very much surrounded, our entire environment is with these 5 sense objects. Some are pleasant in terms of the form. We try to have more. Some are unpleasant. We try to reject with lots of efforts, but it is sense object. So then also, if we closely examine our yearning, longing, desire that we have, closely examine, many of us, 99% are very much related to the sense pleasure. Our past, if we observe our past, what we would like, the things that we really wanted in the past, and the present, again, we are in the future. Currently, I'm really longing to have a good holiday somewhere in a quiet, of course, here it's very sunny, but not very quiet, not very relaxed, and so somewhere, to go. Sense pleasure. When I was in the UK, going on holiday, that means to go somewhere to have a sunny beach, lay down, and so forth, and have a nice eating, drinking, and relaxing. Sense pleasure. So that is, quite often when we discuss, I'm not that extreme sense pleasure. I'm quite happy with what I've got, and I'm not really chasing more. That might be true, but potential is there. Potential is there. Other day, I read an article in the BBC, written news article. There is a man, a very famous man. He has 100-something vintage cars. 100-something in that kind of old, very vintage cars. And to keep those, just space. And so that is, when you look at, that is extreme, we may say. I'm not that extreme. I don't have car. I'm not extreme. That might be the case right here and now. But when circumstances change, we don't know. We really don't know. So extreme. The other extreme explain is extreme of, in here translation is self-mortification. Self-mortification in the sense extreme of completely neglecting our basic necessity, food, shelter, medicines, friendship. Really completely neglecting. That is, I will not explain that much. We don't have that much risk seeking spirituality through neglecting all our basic necessities. We don't have that much risk. But that is what at the Buddha's time and even these days there are. But I'm not going to say that much on that. So these two extremes are identified by Buddha, and he suggests should not be followed. Should not be followed. And within that two extremes, my current little explanation is the first one: extreme of sense pleasure, pursuing sense pleasure. That we should pay attention. And in here, in this paragraph, the second big paragraph, then Buddha said he found, he has found that the path or the means or the methods really to apply is the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path. After having that kind of lifestyles, avoiding two extremes lifestyles, and application is the Noble Eightfold Path. And that is what in this second big paragraph. So what is in this, why we should avoid those two extreme lifestyles. Buddha said, extreme lifestyles are not very, or here the term is used, which is low. Low in the sense not very productive for the long term. Low in that sense. Here Buddha said, which is low, that kind of extreme lifestyle. Sometimes Tibetan teachers use this analogy, saying that, pursuing sense pleasure is like trying to quench thirst, drinking salty water. That's quite often used, that term, analogies. If we to ease thirst, if we drink salty water, it will bring more thirst, and that's what said. And in this case, Buddha said, which is low, low in the sense down, not very productive, and that's true. More we pursue, it is like a bottomless container. Pursuing sense pleasures is like a bottomless container. No matter how much we pour, there will be no filling up, or like that. So, and also Buddha said, Volca, in the sense, not very sophistication in that kind of lifestyles. Extreme, extreme pursuing sense pleasure. There's no sophistication. There's no, rich deep down. There's no richness. Only just in the surface. In the sutra, in English, they translate saying Volca, the way of worldling, sort of keep, chasing. In English, there's a particular expression, chasing the dog's tail, like that, nothing ending. So those are the things. And then when Buddha explained the Noble Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path give us a vision. A vision in the sense to have a direction in our lives. If we start to practice Noble Eightfold Path, then that will give the vision. that will give us the understanding. That will give us, some, what you call, the term is used, leads to peace. That will give us, the direct knowledge of the reality of the things and events. And it leads to enlightenment, and it leads to nibbana. So in this second paragraph, which is quite a big paragraph, the first part, what Buddha had done, he explained to his followers to avoid two extremes of lifestyles. And in that kind of middleway path, then when we apply the Noble Eightfold Paths in our daily life, that will give us a vision in our life, something look forward for the long term. When I was in the UK, I teased my friends. Many of us, our long term is two or three things: good retirement, free from mortgage. Those are the long-term vision. Of course, these are useful. I can understand. Have a good retirement. When you reach age 65 or 70, then don't need to work. You have your company or whoever pays your retirement. And also, you don't need to pay. There's no mortgage anymore. So where you live, and maybe like in the UK, the NHS pays your medical treatment. So that is a long-term vision. But this is not really talking about that kind of vision. Vision. And also another, along that artist, my friend saying, our deepest analysis is done with which mortgage company is the best. We don't do that much analysis on our nature of our existence. And we don't do that much analysis, the appearance and the reality. Things and events appear to me in this particular form, in this particular manner, in this particular fashion. Do they really exist in that manner, in that fashion, in that way? We immediately jump, react. We don't do that much analysis. And here, Buddha, in the sutra, Buddha said, which gives rise to knowledge, understanding. And that knowledge is not which mortgage company, but that knowledge is that kind of knowledge. Knowledge of what is the fact, the reality in my daily life with these appearances, and my reaction. And, the Buddha and subsequent Buddhist teachers, like, for example, His Holiness Dalai Lama currently, says understanding, the understanding of reality, in this case, dependent origination. On the other side of the dependent origination is emptiness of the things and events. And that kind of knowledge is something really long-term knowledge. So here, Buddha said when we avoided those two extreme lifestyles on that kind of middle way lifestyle, and the application of the Noble Eightfold Path, gives these eventually, enlightenment and nibbana. Okay, so that is what here, the second paragraph. I'm giving just, structure of the sutra. Then the main body of sutra, I say main body of the sutra, start from where the Buddha, the text where Buddha, explained the first noble truth, second noble truth, third noble truth, and the fourth noble truth. In relation to the four noble truths, Buddha, explained three ways. Each noble truth is explained 3 times, but in a slightly different ways. The first noble truth of dukkha, is explained 3 times, and each time Buddha explained in a different ways. And same the origins of dukkha and cessation and path which leads to cessation. So that is the main body of the sutra. So with regard to the first noble truth, in the first time, what Buddha said, he simply, introduced, or he simply identified what are the dukkha, or what is dukkha here within us, physically and mentally. Simply, introduce or explain what is dukkha in here. And the second round, relation to the first noble truth, Buddha said it should be understood fully. And that is very important for us. For us, the dukkha, the suffering, should be fully understood as a suffering. And the third round, once we understand dukkha fully and completely as a dukkha, then that is end of activity, or end of our job relation to the dukkha. There's no more task need to be done. Once we fully understood dukkha as a dukkha, then there's no more sort of understandings need to be developed. And that each round is important for us. Of course, we understand, the certain levels of dukkha. Buddha doesn't need to say our headache is dukkha. But certain levels of dukkha we don't understand as a dukkha. And that is what here Buddha is really very much pointing out, and also subsequent Buddhist teachers. Like, for example, many of you know this very well, in the classical Buddhist texts, commentaries. Dukkha is explained at the 3 layers. Suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and pervasive suffering. The second and third is very, very important for us. Pay attention and try to understand as a dukkha. The first, even animal can understand as a dukkha. And to avoid or to free from the first levels of dukkha, I think we don't need Dharma that much. But second and third, particularly third levels of dukkha, which is called pervasive suffering. In Tibetan, That levels of dukkha, to understand as a dukkha, then we need teaching by the Buddha, subsequent Buddhist teachers. Then we need a really thorough analysis, contemplation, meditation, and so forth. So that is what here, when Buddha introduced, the relation with regard to the First Noble Truth, first time around, he just simply explained these are the dukkha. At the second, he said these should be understood as a dukkha. And the third, once you understand as a dukkha, then that is it. And which is very great news for us. Once we fully understood all layers of dukkha as a dukkha, then that job is done. And same, the second noble truth, which is origins of dukkha. Again, at the first round, Buddha said, these are the origins of dukkha. And with regard to the origins of dukkha in the second round, these should be abandoned. Abandoned in the sense, discarded, eliminated from our habit, from our mental continuum. And the third round, once fully, completely eradicated the origins of dukkha from our habits, from our mental continuum, that is it. So that is the second, with regard to the second noble truth. So today, of course, now time is coming to close to end our schedule. And what is really helpful with regard to when we read these kind of sutra, and particularly in general when we read text, it is very. One of my teachers used to say, that read the text that talking to you, not talking to someone else. And that is something very, very helpful. Another, the way of reading these kind of texts is read just few lines or one or two paragraphs. Then just close the book and give a few minutes to reflect on what we have read. That way we will see what Lama Tsongkhapa has said in his great Lamrim. All the teachings will see as one instruction to oneself. All the teachings, all the teachings, to understand all the teachings being instructions to oneself. That is what here, to go bit by bit, reflect on that bit, and see what that bit is talking about to ourselves, not to others. That's so. Anyway, I will leave it here. We will, as I mentioned earlier, we will say 21 Tara prayers and then 2 dedication. Do you have the text or not, Gloria?
I included the prayers that you used from your book and from the web. So that should be the right.
You can't have the screen.
We can put it up. Chappelle, do you have them?
Yes. Can you have it on the screen?
I have it on my laptop. Let me pull it up on my desktop.
Will it take time? Otherwise, if it take time, then I will chant it.
It'll just be a few moments. You want the text or the dedication prayer?
Both. First 21 Tara prayers and then dedication.
Oh, okay. I don't have that on my desktop, so.
Okay, then that's fine. That is really fine. Okay. So then, where's my? Yeah. Okay. Where's my text? Anyway. So then we'll say the dedication, short dedication, my 21 Tara prayers. Sometimes it goes in the heart, sometimes it stops in the middle. So I will say dedication to increase bodhicitta. We'll dedicate our today's gathering to increase bodhicitta and also for the long life for Dalai Lama and all our great teachers. Chanjo Semjo Rinpoche Maje Panama Kejo Keba Nyamba Neba Kone Kondo Pewara Kage Rave Korve Shinkama Pendan Dewa Malu Jongwe Chere Sewa Tenzin Yato Shabe Sede Bato Tenjo. Oh yeah, thank you. So tomorrow we'll have maybe 3-4 questions. If you have written questions, I will take 3-4 questions you can send to the organizers if you have questions related to what I've said today. At the end of tomorrow's our gathering, we'll have a maybe 15-20 minutes of question and answer. And yeah, that is today's our class. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And John Fair, I'm very, very happy to see you here. John has been really my long-term friends, very, very good friends. Thank you, John. So I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
So much, Rinpoche. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rinpoche. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you. Yeah.